Hi, everyone. In this video, we're going to introduce the notion of percentages. And this is a notion that we're going to be using for a lot of the rest of the course. And so it's important that we understand what this means. And so a percentage is nothing but a fraction whose denominator is 100. So 37 over 100, that's a percentage. We call that 37%. So this can also be written as 37%. And we use this little percent symbol. Percent comes from Latin, which means by the hundred. And so that's why we use this denominator, or that's why we call it a percent, because we have a denominator of 100. So some more examples. 57% is the same as 57 over 100. 19% is 19 over 100. And in general, P% is P over 100. And P does not need to be a whole number or less than 100. So we could have any sort of, so we could do a lot of different things. So for example, we could have 42.5%. That's going to be 42.5 over 100. 150% is going to be 150 over 100. And let's say just combine these, 264.3% is going to become 264.3 over 100. Okay, and so this is the basic idea of a percentage. And so why do this? So one answer is it allows us, or at least will eventually allow us, to compare different fractions or ratios. So here's an example of the type of problem that we're going to want to be able to solve. So suppose Sam takes a test and scores 25 points out of 30 possible points. James takes a test and scores 45 points out of 50 possible points. And so the question is, who did better on their exam? And this is not a question we're going to answer right now, but it is one that we're going to set up a little bit and see how we could go and find the answer. And so Sam's score well, we have 25 possible points. So he earned 25 out of 30. And so we can write this as a fraction, 25 over 30. James's score, well, he got 45 points out of 50 possible points. And so we can write this as a fraction, 45 out of 50. And so here, it's hard to compare these fractions because even though 45 is bigger than 25, we can't directly say, oh, 45 is bigger, so James did better, because we have different denominators. And so if we want to compare fractions with different denominators, one thing we can do is convert them to percentages. Because once we convert them to percentages, we can just say, all right, whichever percentage is the higher number, that's the one who did better. Because then we'll change both of these to being out of 100. And when you have the same denominator, you can just directly compare the numerator. So you can directly compare the numbers on top. And so we won't see how to do that in this video, but we will see that in a future video. And so there's going to be what we'll see is there's going to be three different things we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at fractions, percentages, and decimals. And so we can convert from percentages to fractions. We know how to do that. How do we do that? Well, p% becomes p over 100. And so in the coming videos, we'll see how to go from fractions to decimals, decimals to percentages, and then fractions back to percentages. So we'll see that in the coming videos. But this is just to hopefully give you an intro in what we're doing when we're doing percentages. Another more psychological reason is percentages are usually more natural for people. And so they usually seem more natural. So especially if you're reporting statistics or probabilities, if you say something like 30% of people prefer milk chocolate, as just a random example, what this translates to is that for a group for a random group of 100 people, approximately 30 of them will prefer milk chocolate. Of course, it's not guaranteed that exactly 30 of them, but if you get a bunch of different groups of people, the average number in each group that prefers milk chocolate will be about 30. And so 30 out of 100, this sort of standardized grouping often feels more natural for people, and it's good for communication. It's not great always for calculation, and we'll see what we can do about that, but it's good for communication. So we like to communicate percentages and probabilities, statistics and probabilities in terms of percentages. It's what usually feels more natural for people. And we'll see examples of doing both of those in future videos. That's going to be all for this video.